Hello. Just waiting to see if more people come in. Thank you for being here. And give me 1 minute. Okay. All right. Just gonna wait and see if more people come in. Thank you for stopping by. Everyone just coming in. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. I want to talk about Quinton Simon. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay, so before we start talking, just in case you guys have not heard, law enforcement did come out and make a statement. They went back to search the pool that was in the yard yesterday. Sorry, trying to pull up the article. Okay, so the police issued a statement today on new evidence seized in the search for missing Savannah toddler, which is Quinton. They said, we've seized evidence that we believe will help move this case forward, and we're not working to analyze, and we're now working to analyze the evidence to see where it leads us. We continue to pursue all avenues to bring Quinton home, following all leads and evidence. There will be no further public statements as of today. So I think that's hopefully that's some good news for Quinton, and they can find him and figure out where he's at. So recently it has come to light. I'm not sure how many of you guys have heard what the babysitter Diana was saying. In the beginning, she, just like the grandparents, had come out and expressed her concerns. There's a lot of inconsistencies that you find in articles, news statements, and then what's actually coming from the babysitter and family members of Quinton. And it's kind of like a lot to unpack because you have multiple people saying multiple things, trying to put their word out there and trying to figure out who's telling the truth is what's the issue. Okay, so I first want to bring up what the babysitter has talked about and some key points there. So the babysitter wound up getting attacked verbally by Bob, or oh geez, I can't think of the grandma's name. Hold on, Billy Joe. Sorry. Okay, and up until that point, everything seemed to be kosher between the two of them. I know a lot of people don't want to point fingers at anybody or place blame where it is, but the reality is, after hearing everything that comes out, there were multiple people that witnessed the neglect and alleged abuse, and nobody did anything except for the babysitter telling, which is Diana, telling Billy Joe about the concerns, and then Billy Joe didn't do anything. And at first, in the beginning of this, I was actually like really happy to see the grandparents stick out and fight for him, because there are so many other cases that we see where nobody fights for the child except for people in social media, but not anybody close to them in their lives. And I found that very refreshing. Also, just like with law enforcement and how they've been handling, I wish other cases would get the same kind of attention. But now that everything has come out between Diana and Billy Joe, there's a lot more red flags that have been raised, in my opinion. So Billy Joe met them, Quinton's family, through somebody at church. Somebody approached her, told her the situation, asked her if she'd be willing to help, and she said, sure, no problem. And then the next day is when Billy Joe had reached out to her. It's been about, I think she was taking care of them for about 6 months, just the two older boys. and eventually the little baby girl that was born as well. So Diana said that a lot of her videos have been taken down, so I'm only taking from what I could find. Diana says that she didn't know about the dynamics truly in the household as far as like what beef was going on between Billy Joe and Leilani and with the boyfriend, and that there was issues that were like that. She said that she became concerned with things when she started seeing and watching the boys, and she would report it to Billy Joe, but never had called DCFS or child public services that's out there, because I don't know what they go by. They go by something else. And she said she did know that Grandma had custody of the boys, but she did not know underneath what circumstances. I have not been able to personally find that information out. So I would assume it would have something to do with the substance abuse history. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's really anything else that's in Leilani's past that really sticks out to that. The other thing, though, is I find weird is that, so she has custody, Grandma has custody of the two boys. However, it seems like Leilani still has custody of her youngest child. And I don't know if that's because of the father, Danny, like maybe he has the custody or something. Because I feel like if she had custody taken away twice, her having custody of her youngest one is kind of highly suspicious if she has that kind of history. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I was not able to find anything else much about that. So one of the issues is that Grandma's replies to Diana, and Diana says she does have screenshots and cameras to prove, you know, the conversations that they had and everything that transpired. And she said when she did report her concerns to to Billy Joe, she said she would basically just talk with Leilani. That was her response to it. And other than that, nothing else was really said. The boys were outside unattended at one point, multiple points, I should say. But on this particular day, which she didn't give the date, but she just said that, you know, her daughter notified her that she found both of the boys outside playing in the ditch unattended. They couldn't find Leilani. So they went over to the house, and when they couldn't find her, Diana did call Billy Joe. And then Billy Joe called Leilani and found out she was inside the house the whole time. I don't understand why she would. I get that Diane was hired underneath Billy Joe, but I don't understand why she didn't just contact Leilani. I don't know if it's because the history where Leilani would not get back to her about certain things and she just felt more comfortable, or what. But that right there to me just doesn't make sense. I don't know if it was instructed by Billy Joe for her to just only solely speak with her, but I don't know. But either way, these boys were left unattended multiple times. Diana is not the only neighbor that has come forth and said that they've seen these babies outside playing by themselves or outside wandering around. There was a interview a while back of a neighbor who didn't want to be shown on camera saying the same thing, that like her biggest fear was she would see them wandering around and she was concerned about them possibly getting hit by a car. So we know that multiple people have seen this part of the neglect that are coming forth. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm horrible at taking notes and rereading them. And thank you everybody who's here and for coming in. Appreciate it. Alrighty. Okay, so a typical day for these boys was to be dropped off by Diana's, from what I've heard from the boyfriend, not Leilani. So the boyfriend is Danny. They would typically get dropped off in the morning and then they'd be back home in the afternoon. She said that there were multiple times that the boys and the babies that she started watching as well were dropped off without the diapers or the pull-ups or baby formula, and that she would try her best to get a hold of Leilani, and she would be frequently ignored. So that's why she would have the conversations with the boyfriend, which is Danny. 1 second, please. So it seems like Leilani was really not a part of a lot of this, or I should say absent, because it seems like other people are doing a lot of what she should be doing, I guess is the best way to put it. And she said for 2 days, she had tried to get a hold of Leilani during one of these incidents, especially with the baby formula, and again went to Danny because Leilani just would not respond back to her. During all this time when Diana was going through these struggles, she had sent a lot of info to Billy Joe, including pics that her and her daughter took of the bruises. Trigger warning, everybody. Sorry, I forgot to say that in the beginning, but massive trigger warning. There were bruises on both boys, and they were from belts, and they were on the arms and the neck of Quinton specifically. And these pictures were taken, and they were sent to Billy Joe, but again, not to police or DCFS. She felt that, Billy Joe was the right person to go to with this information. And from the way it comes around is like she was basically just given the same kind of like, okay, I'll take care of it, I'll talk to her kind of speech. And then eventually Billy Joe had said to Diane that she was tired of what was going on and transpiring there, and asked Diana to permanently keep the kids till she was back home, and she works out of state. I don't know what her job is, but I know she travels for work. I find it odd that, and there's nothing wrong with Diana. I'm not saying anything about her. I just find it odd that you ask somebody to permanently keep the kids that you have custody of because there's some bad crap going on there, instead of coming home or reaching out to law enforcement or what have you. Now, it could very well be that Billy Joe tried to handle it on her own, so that way nobody would know that Leilani was, having access to these kids. I don't know. I wasn't able to find any specific reports about what the conditions were as far as, Grandma having custody. So after they had this conversation, about 2 to 3 hours later, Diana got a phone call from Billy Joe and said that she changed her mind about Diana keeping the boys permanently, and that she wanted to give Leilani another chance, saying that she did a lot of bad stuff herself when she was younger, and that Leilani is a young mom, and that she needs to know that Billy Joe can trust her, and that she wants Leilani to know that Billy Joe will support her in whatever she chooses to do. That to me makes absolutely no sense. And the reason it makes no sense to me is because when we typically think of children being taken out of a home, granted, there are some cases where they shouldn't have been removed, but most of the time they're removed and it's something serious. So if Grandma felt it necessary to keep these kids away from Leilani, but then she goes on over and wants to give her a chance with them, that's really what's starting to make me look and question Grandma's motive for taking those boys to begin with. I'm starting to wonder if this was maybe a tit for tat thing between Leilani and her mom. I just feel like there's a lot of animosity between the two of them. And the more and more stuff comes out, Grandma does not look as innocent and with whatever's happening in the dynamics of the household. And I'm not defending Leilani. I am not defending her by any means. But what I'm saying is it possible that grandma decided to take these kids in order to try and keep them with Leilani and keep giving her that second chance, third chance, or what have you, because we know that she is not to be trusted by what the grandfather and grandmother have said. She's a compulsive liar. She's a thief, and she has an addiction. Or could it be that grandma decided to take custody of the boys so that way she could have something to hold against Leilani? Because their relationship is very tumultuous. I mean, there's a lot of bullshit that goes on there. You could tell just by the way the stuff is coming out. So I'm starting to really doubt the faith that I had in grandma as far as taking the boys and trying to keep them with family with good intentions. I'm starting to really question that right now. And I'm just going to peek at chat real quick. Hello, everybody coming in. If I missed you, thank you for being here. Okay, so the Diana also said that Leilani made it very, very clear that she did not want Diana to keep the kids in the sense of how Billy Joe initially wanted her to. So, maybe it was an influence of Leilani and Billy Joe to change the mind about the boys permanently staying with Diane. A typical schedule for them was Monday through Friday. The boys would be dropped off between 5:30, 6 a.m. or the kids, because she started watching the baby too. And typically 3:30 was the time that work would be over with. However, there were times that she would keep them till 6 p.m. because of them wanting to work extra hours. But she also stated that she would still watch the kids even if Leilani didn't go to work. Now, I've heard multiple places that Leilani didn't work and neither did the boyfriend. However, I did find out that she was working at a liquor store. I don't know how long she's been employed there or anything, and that the boyfriend was pursuing his music career. So I'm assuming that's why he was gone all the time. Leilani also, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. On October 4th, so the day before Quinton was reported missing, it was a Tuesday, and the boys went home between 4:30 and 5, and Diane was told by Danny and Leilani that they would see her, the next day in the morning. So she says that she got a text that came in from Danny, not Leilani, and that's one of the things that are floating around, is whether or not it was Leilani or Danny that messaged her about not watching the kids. So from Diana's video, she says at 5:29 that she got the text from Danny, not Leilani, that the kids were going to stay home and they were going to stay home with Leilani. She said she thought this was kind of odd, but didn't really question it too much. And the only reason she thought it was odd is because even when Leilani didn't work, she still babysat the kids and watched them. So Diana said that typically, and I'm a little confused on where they live, because in some instances it seems like they live nearby, maybe down the block or a couple blocks, whatever. But this statement makes me think that they're more like across the street from these guys, because she does have older children herself, and they would be sitting out on the front porch, and they would see Leilani, come out on the front porch, have a cigarette, and then when she noticed they were out there, she would like kind of dunk and hide and try to go back in the house. And this was the same thing that happened on the 5th, which was the day Quinton was reported missing. And she also stated that her one of her sons, who's an adult, he also was leaving for work. So that would be between the hours of 7:30 a.m. that day and 8 a.m. that they were out on the porch, and they did not see a single sign of Quinton. And they eventually had left and they wanted to go to get something from McDonald's. One of her daughters wanted to go get something, so they went to leave to go get something to eat. And Diana said the next text she got was about 9 a.m. asking if she knew where Quinton was. She said it was from Danny, not Grandma or Grandpa. However, the reports that are around are saying it was from Grandma and not Danny. So they're again kind of trying to figure out what the truth is on that note as well. I find the babysitter to be very honest and credible, but I'm still kind of I still kind of try and keep my spidey senses going to see if maybe she does misspeak or where these wrong information is coming from. And please, if anybody has heard anything alike or different, throw it down in the comments and let me know. Now, when we hear about the phone call that Grandma got, the one thing that seems to be consistent is that Grandma found out through the babysitter, not through Danny and not through Leilani. However, some say it was Diana that called Billy Joe. Some say it was Billy Joe that called Diana to ask where Quinton was and that it wasn't Danny that called or texted. So again, there's that who did it kind of thing going on all over again. Yes, absolutely heartbreaking. I feel like this case, it just unfolds the same way so often that we can almost pick it out right away. And it's very sad because it shouldn't happen at all. So after she got the call or text or whatever saying that they couldn't find him, her and her daughter decided to go over there and they wanted to help look for him. She had asked, did you check here or here, whatever, because these were certain places that he liked to hide. And she was met with a very cold shoulder and said that they already checked and then they refused her help, which to me is also a massive red flag because anybody with a missing child, hell, anybody with a missing dog even will accept any help that is offered to them. They wouldn't turn down help, which, in this case, it did happen, which is very odd and not a good sign. The other thing that I found out, and some people may have already known, and I just didn't, that the 911 call was not prompted to have happened until Diana said something to Leilani about it. So, I can't even wrap my head around that, okay? Leilani didn't call police until Diana said, have you called the police? Then she decided to call. Mind is blown. And I wonder if that truly is the case, if nobody had asked her about whether or not she called the police, would she have? Or would she have just let it kind of unfold and plead ignorant to whatever was going around her? I don't know. That to me, again, red flag. I know a lot of the cases we see, it's usually the significant others, live-in boyfriend or girlfriend that tend to be the culprit in these cases. However, I really feel like Leilani is the forefront behind this. I think she is the main person to look at. And then this boyfriend of hers, Danny, would be second runner. But my gut tells me it is really her. We know she has a horrible, violent temper. She's got substance abuse issues. There's a lot of DV that plays into the entire family, and her brother is currently incarcerated for murder. So it's not far-fetched to think that this is the norm for them with how they act. And Billy Joe has an extensive record from the past too, which I don't know all of it. And there's nothing with children to do that I'm aware of. So I didn't really pay too much attention to that. So Diana offered to take the older brother home because of everything that was going on. So then that way they could focus on finding Quinton and not have to worry about what he was doing. And Danny said, yes, that would be fine. And he grabbed a pair of shoes for him and she had left. Her and Billy Joe were talking and texting, and there was no issues going on whatsoever. I don't know what the date was, if it was the day after or maybe the second day after he was reported missing. I'm not sure. But she says she does have the camera footage because everything was going fine. They were talking and texting on the phone. Diana was telling her how she was going to cook, and then that they were going to, there was a group of them that were going to go pass out missing person flyers all over the place, and then also have a prayer circle. And it seemed fine between the two of them. Then all of a sudden, Diana claims that Billy Joe kind of turned on her and got accusatory of her. Diana said she never once Diana said she never once mentioned that she would do a memorial for Quinton because he had passed away, that she never thought that he had passed away, and she never mentioned that. Billy Joe said that she didn't want to have any more contact with Diana after that, and she was overstepping her place as being just a babysitter. And I've heard Diana refer to herself as just a babysitter multiple times, but I have to agree with her. She's not just a babysitter because she spent more time with these kids than their own biological parents and the grandmother who was supposed to have custody of them. And I feel like she knew more about those kids within the 6 months she was with them than these two knew their whole entire lives, because they had to get updated pictures from the babysitter because mom and grandma didn't have any. Kind of reminds me of a few other cases that we know where that's happened, which is very telling all alone on itself. Okay, so hold on. Diana says typically she's never had anything bad to say about Danny. She actually feels okay about him and doesn't think he's responsible because he was the one who would reach out to her and ask if she had everything that she needed for the kids, whether it was diapers, pull-ups, formula, whatever. However, Leilani never bothered. So it seems like the communication was between the two of them. I know a lot of people feel like the babysitter is defending Danny. I don't necessarily think that's what it is. I think she's just trying to prove, that Danny was more on top of things when it came to these kids than Leilani was, to further prove the neglect that Leilani had. That's my opinion. Again, my opinions and views only. So everybody has their own. Hold on one second. Yes, Grandma, I agree. I do agree. But part of me can't help but wonder if she really does feel that way. Like, it does seem like it was a lash out. And because it was specifically to her, I think maybe you are right, because we don't hear about any of the other neighbors getting accused or lashed out about, because obviously they weren't the babysitters. Let's see here. Okay, so at some point, Billy Joe had barged in Diana's house and got in her face, talking crap to her, and accused her of taking Quinton, accused her of being responsible for whatever has happened to Quinton, and also of selling Quinton, which I don't know where she would get the idea that that would happen, because I haven't heard anything that would indicate the babysitter, one, having a motive, or two, coming off as shady or doing something underhanded before this. So I wonder why Billy Joe did have this mind. It could be the fact that she's in denial that her daughter could possibly be behind this, or she's kicking herself in the ass because she allowed Leilani to still have the kids, knowing that she wasn't supposed to. Which again, we don't know what those rules are. Those documents haven't been provided unless somebody else has them out there, and I just don't know it. But it just, to me, it wouldn't make sense that you allow kids to stay in the same house with the parent that lost custody of them, because there's obviously a reason for that, right? Part of me also wondered, with her coming to Diana the way she did, I don't know. It really bothers me, and I don't know why. It truly bothers me. Diana said that, she said some pretty mean things, just like Billy Joe did. But there was no physical contact between the two of them. It was just more of a verbal altercation, like being in your face kind of thing. However, she did make a comment that her daughter was recording everything on her cell phone, and that Billy Joe, I think, like tried to smack it out of her hand or something. And to some people that might be a big deal. To me, it doesn't really bother me too much, because again, like we said, there's a lot going on here. She's grieving. And this is an adult that this happened to. This wasn't like a kid, it wasn't a minor. So let me see here. So there was some kind of issue over some kind of tickets. I honestly could not make out the name of the place she was referring to, but they were pretty pricey tickets, and they initially were given to Diana in order to take her kids, but her kids are grown, so she wouldn't have. So then she was supposed to take Quinton and his older brother to this thing. However, they never went there. I want to say it sounded like she said Splash Burrows or something, like some kind of water park maybe. And Diana said she did tell FBI about this, and FBI knows this information, and she still has the tickets, like are still there. You could tell they haven't been used. She still has the tickets. I think it's like one of those ones that come on the phone that you could scan. Let's see here. So Diana stated that her and others have all seen these babies outside, and she just truly wanted to help because she felt bad for the boys, which was why she didn't ask for an insane amount. She was charging $15 per boy, not even the baby, but $15 each of the boys, which is $30 a day, okay? 5 days a week. She didn't charge for the baby at all, which to me is extremely generous. And she said she did that because of the circumstances that they were living in and stuff. However, I think that's just very generous, and I don't know anybody else that would truly do that. You know what I'm saying? Especially having them for so long. Diana said that about, I guess somebody, when she was doing her Facebook Live, somebody had asked her if she thought Leilani did this. And her response was, a mother who lets her kids outside does not watch them. Kids walk around dirty and bruised. Multiple people have witnessed, and there is plenty of evidence of the abuse and neglect. What do you think? So there again kind of reiterates that there's multiple people who knew something wasn't legit and still did nothing. Okay. And again, I'm not trying to attack anybody. I'm just putting out the facts that we've all known, that, if somebody could step in and if they see something, say something, it can make a world of a difference. Maybe right now we wouldn't be here. I know a lot of people are kind of hard about her just going to Billy Joe and not going to law enforcement. Typically, I would say it's a horrible thing, right? And I agree, she should have called law enforcement. She should have did something better. However, I don't think she was doing it like in the sense to be sneaky. I feel like she really thought that if she spoke to Billy Joe, that Billy Joe would step in and take care of it. And again, she didn't know the dynamics of this household were the way they are. However, with seeing them outside multiple times by themselves and stuff, I feel like somebody should have called. And nobody did. So there's failure throughout. It's not just one or two people. She says she does not know what happened to the kids, but she does know what they went through with their mother, and again, didn't do anything. And, that statement does kind of bother me, because when you make a statement, I know what they went through, that's an indication that you knew something bad was happening. At least that's the way I take it. Again, just my opinion. All right, let me see here. She also came out and said that now she does not think Billy Joe is innocent, because she reached out to her and she never came to the boys' aid when they needed her. So that to me also is very troublesome, because I get it, she works out of state. So obviously she probably couldn't just up and leave or whatever every time something happened. However, to simply ignore what's being told and not do anything about it and kind of brush it off like it's no big deal is an issue. The other thing is the way she worded about how she never came when the boys needed her makes me wonder if there was something else going on there that we haven't heard about or hasn't come to light. I don't know. It just seems kind of interesting wording, I guess is the way to put it. She said that Quinton had come over, and this is specifically about Quinton. Quinton had come over to Diana's. There were belt bruises on his arm and his neck from a belt. When she did text Billy Joe, she never got the text back. She never got the call either. That right there should have made her call the law, but she didn't. So I don't know. There is a channel that I just stumbled across. They're called Riptide True Crime. I will put the link in after, because she has the video up there of where the babysitter is talking. I'm not sure if that's the one that's taking down, but if anybody hasn't seen it and would like to see how Diana is acting while she's talking, and just hear what she has to say, I will put the link in there for you guys to go ahead and look at it. And she was able to put that out there, and that's great, because if that is the one that's taken down, now everybody can see it. Thank you for whoever's coming in if I haven't seen you. Okay, so we know that there's a lot of issues within this household. There's a lot of information that's kind of wonky, where we don't know who necessarily is telling 100% the truth. All right. So on one account, we have Wednesday, October 5th, last seen at 6 a.m. by the boyfriend Danny in the playpen pack and play thing, and then he had left for work. 9 a.m., Mom Leilani noticed Quinton was missing when she woke up. And 9:39 police, 9:39 police were notified. 9:45 law enforcement shows up and does searches. Now, this is what Chief Hadley had said that Leilani said to him. Okay, that was one of the accounts. Another account says that Quinton was last seen at 6 a.m. by the boyfriend before he went to work in the playpen. 9 a.m., Mom comes home from work, notices Quinton is missing, calls law enforcement at 9:30, and then 9:45 is when they show up. Then there's another account that's out there that says Mom was the last to see Quinton at 6 a.m. and reported him missing after 9. And excuse me, there's multiple things out there. So who the hell knows at this point, to be honest with you? Because just because she told that to law enforcement for the first account doesn't necessarily mean she was telling the truth. Then again, it doesn't necessarily mean that she's lying. There was a comment that's been floating around from a apparent cousin, and this is just allegedly. She claims that Leilani purposely waited to report Quinton missing until after the garbage cans were picked up from the garbage trucks that morning. At first, people were thinking it was credible, good information, but it turns out there's some kind of beef between this cousin and Leilani. So, on one hand, it could be legitimate. On the other hand, this could be just somebody trying to kind of gaslight. So, we have multiple accounts of what was said that happened with Quinton from Leilani. One was that he wandered away. One was that he was with his bio dad. Another was that his bio dad came in the house and took him without permission. Then there was another one that said the door was open and someone came in and took him. Then we have the older boy wasn't home, and then we have the older boy was home. Whether or not that is true, I have no idea. And then the last thing would be that who actually sent the text messages, because like I said, we have the babysitter telling her account, but then the news outlets are putting out other things that are being said. So I honestly do not know. Either way, it's all just not great, right? So Leilani specifically told the police and Grandpa that he was with the bio dad. Grandpa was the one that said that doesn't seem right. And then police looked into it and found out that his bio dad was nowhere around. He was, cleared. He was not a person of interest or anything. As far as the motive behind this, now that it's coming out about the kind of relationship that has gone on between Leilani and her mother, part of me is wondering, could this be just a simple neglect case where she was too busy doing her and he got out of the house somehow, or she just left him outside and then something happened to him, like he fell into the pool or, whatever? Or was it, which in my feeling is this actually, I feel like this was a spiteful revenge kind of thing. They found out they were getting evicted. They have multiple arguments between the two of them. The neighbors say they are constantly arguing. There was 2 incidents prior to this where they had shown up, or I'm sorry, that law enforcement showed up because of the arguments. So I wonder if maybe Leilani, being pissed off at her mom, decided to take it out on Quinton. She never bonded with Quinton. It's been said. Whether or not that's not true, or that's true or not, I 100% do not know. Hi, Flip Flop. Thank you for being here. But we've seen plenty of times where there is a revenge or a spitefulness as a motive to harm a child or unalive a child just to hurt a spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever. So it wouldn't be entirely unheard of if this was the case here, especially because there just seems like there's a lot of crap between the two of them, okay, between Leilani and Grandma. So there's a really good possibility that it was neglect and something just happened. However, I feel like there's a very, very good possibility that Leilani was pissed and took it out on Quinton, or she was so pissed that she decided to hurt Grandma the one way she knew how, and that would be to take away Quinton. So I don't know. That's just what I feel. And multiple people said that, Leilani never bonded with him, that her favorite was the oldest boy and the youngest, and that there was issues there between her and Quinton, and that, um, that motherly emotion wasn't there when it came to him. And again, it's just hearsay, but we know it's always a possibility. We've seen a lot of cases where there's one child singled out sometimes, and there are cases where it's multiple children that are being harmed. But more so, we do see it where there is one child for whatever reason gets the brunt of everything, right? So, that is a good possibility. Okay, hold on, sorry. So on News Nation, they said that, the authorities have officially declared this a criminal investigation, even though they don't have a person of interest or anything. And I think this has to do with the fact that they went back and looked at the pool and found that that evidence that they're hoping that will lead them down the right line. So on Monday is when the police went and drained the pool. They blacked out the windows, and I was listening to Michelle. I don't know if it's Michelle Walks or Michelle After Dark, the channel I was on, because she's got two channels. But she was saying that typically if the windows are blacked out like that, it's for luminol testing because they want it as dark as possible. Now, whether or not there's a reason they did the luminol testing in there, or if that's just like a routine thing when they're starting to tinker towards something bad happened that wasn't an accident, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know what would automatically make them go that route, or if that's a normal thing. And all police departments are different, so they have their own ways of doing things. Now, the News Nation article claims that Diana was the one that told them that she got the call from Leilani Simon at 5:30 in the morning, and not from the boyfriend, which, like I said, is not what Diana said in her statement that she made when she was trying to clear the air. Also, they claim that Diana told them that the text later came from Billy Joe asking if she seen Quinton, not from Diana. Or I'm sorry, not Diana, not from Danny. Geez, too many names with these. So this again does not match what was said in her video. And then there was something else that really, really kind of stuck out to me. That dispatch call that was released. I'm going to have to remember where I saw it, because there is one that has the captions on it, makes it a little bit easier to understand. And my biggest problem with the dispatch call is how they describe Quinton, which makes me wonder who called in, right? So when you listen to the dispatch call, it sounds like two different women talking, okay? The first woman describes Quinton as having brown hair, green or blue eyes, and then the clothing. Oh, and that he's also Hawaiian. The second woman speaking during this dispatch session says that he is blonde with hazel eyes and a white male, but the clothing matches the same description with the other woman's dispatch call. And to me, that just, I don't know, that kind of blows my mind, because I literally spent the longest time trying to find out what color eyes Quinton had to make sure I was not just hearing things. And Quinton has brown eyes. So whether you go off of what the first dispatching voice you hear or the second, neither one of them say anything correctly about his eyes. I have no idea what Quinton's older brother looks like. I don't know if maybe he has the blonde hair, blue eyes, green eyes, or hazel eyes. It might be possible. I'd really don't understand, because dispatch does say that the mom, Leilani, called. So I feel like that's pretty damn bad. Um, because if Leilani, in fact, was the one that did call, how did she not know the color of her baby's hair or his eyes? Even if you have multiple children, I feel like that is just something as a mother, especially, you will know. And I'm not saying dads wouldn't, but I'm saying moms are typically the ones to know all the really fine details, where dads will be like, I don't know, you got to ask my wife, kind of deal. You know what I mean? But that really, really bothers me about this dispatch call, because you are not giving accurate information. And I know some people might say the eye color may not be that big of a deal or whatever, but to me, it seems pretty significant, because I'm visually impaired, which I know I've mentioned before. So for me, in order to see faces and stuff, I really have to focus on them. And that's part of the reason why I have such a hard time doing the lives with the chats and keeping up, because of my vision issues. But I literally screenshotted every picture I could find of him, and every flyer that I could find that's been made of him. And I was not able to find a flyer that said anything about his eye color, except for one. And all of his pictures, they are brown eyes. I zoomed in as much as I could zoom in, use my flashlight and everything, and those eyes are brown. They are not hazel. They are not green, and they sure in the hell ain't blue. So I don't know where that information came from, like why Leilani would have said that. I tend to believe that it was Leilani that made the 911 call, only because of what Diana said, because she said, she didn't call 911 until she said something to her, which makes me think that it truly was Leilani. Because at first, when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, did the boyfriend maybe call in, or did, somebody else, the babysitter, possibly call in? But no, it was Leilani, and that bothers me. That kind of attests to the point of how little she did care and know about him. Whether or not she would have made that same debacle if it was one of the other two kids, I don't know, but I don't think so. I think this has a lot to do with the fact of how she felt towards Quinton. I think this kind of speaks to that fact. And so the dispatch call, like I said, it really bothers me. A lot of these ins and outs that we're seeing, I really don't think that the boyfriend is the mastermind behind this. I really feel like it is mom, unfortunately. But I don't know. I'm just really hoping that whatever evidence they did find is enough to lead them to wherever Quinton is, and to arrest and be able to prosecute whoever the hell is responsible for this, because kids don't just vanish. And you have the grandparents who came out publicly saying that they had in their, in her. That itself speaks volumes, okay? The argument that was recently talked about, I believe it was over laundry. So grandma wanted to use her washer, and this was right before the eviction got filed. Okay, it was that was in September. I want to say it was September. Hold on, I lost my paper. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second, guys. Dispatch. I lost my paper. I don't know what the heck I did with it. Oh, wait, there it is. Okay, sorry. Here we go. The other thing about the dispatch call, the first lady, I knew I forgot something. The first lady states that Leilani says her son is 1 year old, green, blue eyes, and Hawaiian. The second dispatcher says that he is a 2-year-old, which he's like in between, so I don't know how much of a big deal that would be. But with the blonde hair, hazel eyes. However, the weight, the height, and the clothing do match. When Leilani and her mother had gotten into it, I want to say it was September 8th, Billy Joe wanted to use her washer. Leilani was in the middle. Oh, hey, Nana. No problems. Thank you for being here. So it had come out that the argument was because Billy Joe wanted to use her washer and Leilani was using it. They got into a huge argument, and Billy Joe was the one to put her hands on Leilani. And that's why Leilani called the police. I did not know there was any hands being put on nobody until I was digging through stuff last night and heard it. So that's why she called police and said that she didn't want to get in trouble because she was on probation or whatever. And it was actually Billy Joe that put her hands on her. I think she like pushed her or something and she fell back and like hit her elbow or whatever. And then the next day, which I believe, okay, so I want to say the 7th is when that happened. The 8th, September 8th was when she went and she filed for the eviction notice. And the other reason why I'm having a hard time with grandma now is I've listened to multiple channels and they're talking about how, and I honestly, in the beginning, I agreed that it didn't seem to be real that grandma would want to evict Leilani, the boyfriend, and the 3 kids, especially when she has custody of the 2, which to me would make sense. Like, why would she want to evict the children she has custody of? However, the documents in grandma's writing do show that she listed the 3 kids on there. So I honestly, I don't know what to think about that. And that's what kind of puts me back to my newest thought that maybe Billy Joe's intentions for getting custody of the boys wasn't for their best interest like we all initially thought. Maybe it was this tit for tat thing that her and Leilani seemed to have together, or maybe it was to simply hold something over her head. She said that, she took Leilani in when she found out Leilani was pregnant and she had nowhere to stay, and that's why she started staying with her. What was going on before that, it's not mentioned about, but we do know that she took custody, or she had custody of Quinton when he was only a couple months old. So I think he was like 3 or 5 months old. So again, it's making me really question the motive of her taking custody. Did she want to take custody to keep constantly giving Leilani the second chance, third chance, or what have you? Did she do it to be spiteful? Because spitefulness seems to run pretty big over here, and there's a lot of issues within this family as far as anger and whatnot. Very pettiness. Don't get me wrong, my daughter and I would fight all the time, but I wouldn't have put my hands on her over some damn laundry. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's something more to that. It's not just as simple as, well, she's using my washer, so now I'm going to put my hands on her. Like, that just doesn't make sense. So there was something going on there, and I feel like it was a lot of pent up anger, and maybe that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Hold on one second, guys. Hi, True Crime with Sunshine. Thank you for being here. So my other issue is with this whole custody thing. Did grandma ever really feel that those kids were in danger. Um, what was going on that they had to take custody of them? Because, like I said, there had to be something pretty significant. She's got both of the boys. I want to say the other brother is 3. I could be wrong, um, but there's got to be something going on there, right? And then it come out that Grandma was taking Leilani to court in order to get um, child support, which also can point to why Leilani um, could have motive to be spiteful and unfortunately take it out on Quinton or the grandma. And it can also speak to the motive of why Grandma decided to take custody. There's just more red flags starting to fly around Grandma that I'm really not comfortable with, and they really bother me. Um, Other than finding out from law enforcement that Quinton's dad wasn't around, there's been no talks about any of the bio dads. Each kid has a different bio dad, and I'm not judging. That to me, I could care less about. Okay, that doesn't matter to me. The reason I'm saying that though is it would be nice to know the dynamics of each of those relationships and whether or not the fathers were actually a part of these boys' lives. Is Grandma only going after Leilani for the child support, or is she going after bio dads too? Um, and again, if Grandma had to take custody of them because something bad was happening, why in the hell did she leave them with Leilani? I get having that soft spot for your kid and wanting to give your kid the benefit of the doubt and hope that she's doing better. And Grandma even made a comment in the beginning saying that, sometimes Leilani would be good and make good choices and sometimes not. So I don't know if that's just Grandma trying to make excuses. I don't know if she, like I said, was trying to do this tit for tat thing and use these kids as a bargaining chip. And unfortunately, we do see that happen a lot. Kids are used as more like pawn pieces in these cases than anything, whether it is to sit there and aggravate a spouse or a significant other or somebody else in the family, or just to be an ass, and be selfish. So I'm not sure. The babysitter, Diana, her statements, I feel, are for the most part legitimate. I do. I don't think she had any ill will for these kids or towards Billy Joe until this had happened and Billy Joe started throwing accusations at her. And I think she was really hurt and lashed out, which rightfully so, because if you came in my house acting like that, accusing me of some stuff like that, we would fight. I'll be 100% honest with you. I would be kicking your ass out my house because I would not let somebody come in there and accuse me of something horrible. And she honestly was the sole caregiver for these kids because Leilani wouldn't take care of them and Grandma worked out of state. So Grandma wasn't home for a very long time, which is also why I'm wondering, how did she get custody of these kids? Because how is that a stable environment? It feels like you're taking these kids out of an unstable or unhealthy living situation and then putting them into an unstable, unhealthy situation all over again. And again, nothing towards Diana, but they essentially went from people they knew to a stranger that they didn't know, and that became their sole caregiver. And again, it happens, and I get that. But when you have a CPS case or Child Protective Services case, however you want to word it, those dynamics right there don't make sense to me. I cannot think of any state that allows that to happen, which is the other reason why I'm wondering, is this the reason cops were not called before or reports weren't made before? by grandma because grandma knew she would get in trouble for leaving them with Leilani. And I honestly believe that the babysitter was very naive and believed whatever Billy Joe had, told her and trusted her, which rightfully so. I mean, why would she think that this woman who's asking her for help would have any reason to hide something from her or lie to something? She just saw a family that was in need, and she was just trying to do God's work. And she went through the church, and she, you know what I mean? She was just trying to do good and help, and be there to help this family. She wanted to do her part. And I truly do believe that. And unfortunately, I think because she was so understanding and um, naive and just trusting, that Billy Joe knew she wouldn't question anything, or Billy Joe knew she could just get away, because she never found out why Billy Joe had custody. I'm nosy. I would want to know personally. I'll be like, okay, why can't mom have them? Because obviously there's a reason for that. And to me, it would be more of a safety thing. Like if I'm watching somebody and you're like, oh, you know, I got custody because they can't be by their mom. Okay, well, that's a big deal, because then it's your responsibility as the babysitter to make sure that they are with somebody they're supposed to be with. And if custody was taken, that's a big red flag that something happened there. And kids don't just get taken away because a mom has multiple fathers to multiple children. They don't get taken away because mom works at the liquor store. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever it is, it has to be big. And so I don't know. This whole situation is just such a cluster. um, as far as grandpa goes, I feel like, so he is not Leilani's father from what I'm gathering. I believe he's her stepfather. And I know that doesn't make a difference. But the reason I'm mentioning that is because I think how he feels about Leilani is because of who she is as a person, not because that's not his biological kid. I think he recognizes that she's got issues, and he was tired of the bullshit. I don't think it has anything to do with that not being his biological daughter. I think he is calling it what he sees. He was very upfront and honest about the lying that she did. He put her on blast just like grandma did. And, like I said, I feel like that was legitimate. He was the one that, had made the comment about Quinton being with his bio dad not making sense. And then brings up about the fact that she tends to lie a lot. Then we have grandma, who had also said in one of her statements that, she makes good and bad choices, she can't be trusted, and just to tell what happened to Quinton. For a grandma to say that about their grandchild and their daughter, to me is pretty significant, because I feel like any other grandparent, that wouldn't be the first thing that comes out of their mouth, is to say, just tell what happened. That means you knew something. That means she knew something. And she knew that they were in danger and at risk. And I'm sorry, and please don't come at me, again, just my opinion, but all the things that are indicating that grandma really knew what the hell was going on, yet she still allowed these boys to be with her mother, shame on her, because she is just as responsible for what has ever become of Quinton and for whatever him and his brother had went through. Shame on her, because she knew. You can't tell me that she didn't, especially after making a statement like that, saying, well, just tell them the truth or tell them where he is. I mean, I honestly, I don't know how much more bold in the face truth could have come out of that woman after saying that, because that is just extremely telling. There's no doubt in my mind now. And honestly, she should be held responsible for what has happened to him, because whether she was doing it because she felt sorry for Leilani, or she wanted to give her another chance, whatever the reason may be, at the end of the day, She had custody of those boys to protect them and protect them from their mother. Yet she handed them over to their mother on multiple occasions. So, yes, accountability should be held there because she took an oath. She made it her duty to make sure that these boys were safe, that they were taken care of, and that they were, out of harm's way, only to now be here how many days later looking for a missing child, which I'm sorry, but there's foul play there. There is. And again, just my opinion. I know everybody has a different opinion, but there's no emotion that comes out of this situation except for, when grandpa talked, when the babysitter talked, and when grandma talked. Um, I have not found anything where Leilani has spoke out, which honestly, it could be just because she knows she's going to get her butt reamed. So that's probably why she's not speaking out, because she knows that people are going to come at her. So she may be avoiding it. But then again, if you really care about your missing child, then you don't care what kind of skeletons are being pulled out of your closet as long as you find your kid, right? That's what it should be. And that's not what we're seeing. The other thing that is extremely concerning to me is yesterday during that press conference, the chief mentioned that he did not know where Leilani and Danny physically were at. And that is troublesome. I think that is a problem. I tried to look for an update today to see if whether or not it was mentioned that they do know the whereabouts of Leilani and Danny, and I was unable to find anything. I just hope that, they got eyes on them. I'm sure they do. But I just hope that's what it is. And maybe his statement just kind of came across wrong, and that it's nothing to worry about, because the last thing we need is for these two to have gone missing, especially Leilani. Like, I feel like if they just had her alone, they'd probably have everything they need. So I don't know. This case, there's a lot of cases that bother us and need the attention. This case is one of them because it doesn't make sense. It hasn't made sense from the beginning. The first statement of there being that 3-hour time gap, it's just like, okay, well, every red flag and red siren goes off in your head, because how does that happen? I understand going to bed and maybe like waking up to go to the bathroom, checking on your kids, you see them there, you go back to bed, you wake up, and all of a sudden one of them is missing. That happens. It does. It has happened before. I'm not saying it doesn't. But when the stories start switching about, the only thing about who saw Quinton last, and the whereabouts of Leilani to begin with, and then with the babysitter getting the message at 5:30 in the morning saying that she doesn't need to watch them anymore, makes me feel like something happened the night before, or at the very least in the middle of the night at some point, because we know that the babysitter had eyes on Quinton and his brother the day before Quinton was reported missing, because they left to go home around 4:30, 5 o'clock that evening, okay? And then not even 12 hours later hold on, I'm making sure I'm not screwing up my math here. I'm really bad with numbers. Yeah, so not even 12 hours later, he goes missing. And when they did leave to go home the night before, Leilani and Danny said that, okay, we'll see you tomorrow. The statement of her saying it was a little odd that Danny told her that Leilani was going to stay with the kids because she would normally watch them on her day off, or on her days off, she would still have them. I don't think it needs to be picked apart too much. I feel like it was just because Leilani was lazy. She didn't want to adult. She didn't want to mother, or however you want to put it. So I don't know how much that has to play into this. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of significance there when it's coming to the whereabouts, and it all comes out of Leilani's statements and leads back to her, which is the other reason I feel like she's the one that's at the forefront of this. She's the one that is like the main person in this. Whether or not the boyfriend has something to do with it afterwards, I don't know. Could he have been possibly part of the reason the kids had bruises on them? Absolutely. I'm not saying he can't. But I think Leilani was too. And I think that this whole debacle that she tried to do, she screwed herself because she couldn't keep her story straight. And from what I've heard so far, everything that Danny has been mentioned in seems, for the most part, pretty consistent. I don't know if anybody has heard anything out of his actual mouth, if he has actually said anything. I have not found it. So again, it's word of mouth through what we were hearing through law enforcement, or the articles, or the interviews, and then through Diana. So how credible it is, I don't know. I don't know. I know they got questioned for a long time. They got released, and as of yesterday, the chief didn't know where she and Danny were. So I'm not sure. My other issue is that they have another adult that was living in the house, which is Leilani's brother. And I'm not accusing him or saying anything's bad with that. What the only information that we have from him is that he said that police officers said that they got the information from him that Leilani had a history of stealing things and selling it for drugs. But there's no mention of whether or not he was at home during the time that Quinton went missing. Was he there the day before, the night of, or I should say the night before? What has he witnessed? Because the grandma comes out and says that there's a lot of beef going on there, and that it's, even in her eviction notice, it stated that she just wanted them out of the house because nobody was happy and things were, just not great. But the other brother has not come out and said anything, and I'm really curious to know. Well, I'm sure he's seen and heard everything that the grandparents have, but I just find it odd that he hasn't said anything else except for that little tidbit about her having a drug issue and stealing and stuff. So I'm not sure. This case, it's really complicated. And of course, the main thing is finding Quinton and finding Quinton and making sure that he's found and whoever is responsible is held accountable. But I think it's really important to start picking through the red flags, the inconsistencies, and trying to figure out where this information is coming from. Because when we have the babysitter coming out saying one thing, but then you see in different news articles that something else was said, like where's the false information coming from? Are they just making it up and throwing a name to it? I mean, my husband's a big believer that media likes to gaslight and put things down as concrete truth and stuff like that when it truly isn't sometimes. So I'm not sure. So thank you guys so much for being here. I don't know if you guys have any questions or comments. If you do, I'd be more than happy to try and answer them for you. I got a notification, so hold on one second, please. Oh. Okay, so this is not good news. This isn't about Quinton, though. They just found Jolissa Fuentes, unfortunately. I just got the report, and she was the young lady that was missing from Selma. She went missing around the time Collie Rodney did. And it says that she was found deceased. Breaks my heart. I was hoping it would be good news. She was found in Fresno County, and that they're going to put more information out once they learn more information, it looks like. And that's from the news station KMPH. So sad. Terrible. All right, guys. Thank you so much for showing up today, and thank you everybody for watching the replay. I truly do appreciate it. Hopefully we can get this awareness out there for Quinton, and hopefully he'll be fine. And the other reason I think it's important to do these videos like this where we're picking apart is maybe we could figure out what happened here. I think the Child Protective Services seems to be a big thing in a lot of cases, right? However, in this case, part of me wonders if it was more so Child Protective Services obviously allow grandma to take custody, but I'm wondering if the underhanding is coming from grandma, not so much, Protective Services failing. But again, we don't know what the stipulations were around that, so I'm not sure. And I hope we do find out because whatever had happened, it caused Quinton to be failed. Whether that be grandma doing some underhanded crap or a failure of the system or what have you. Either way, he was failed by many, it seems like, just in his life in general, with a lot of people knowing and witnessing what was going on and not doing nothing about it, which is very unfortunate because maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation today if something was done and somebody stepped in. So again, thank you all for being here. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And anybody watching replay, it's very much appreciated, and thank you so much. Let's keep Quinton's name out there and keep the prayers up and ask the angels to help guide him home, and hopefully law enforcement will come up with enough evidence to find him and find out what happened to him and prosecute whoever did this. All right, guys, you have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you later.